This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues.
Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree, episode 12, When Your Teen Fails a Major Test.
Hey, so I was trying to think of things that, would really rattle a parent. And I think failing a test, especially a big one, when your teen comes back and maybe they're straight up and they tell you, like, I bombed that test and they have the evidence, right? Like, it's not even just that they're saying that, but they really did. Or you find out later that they did. I feel like that can be very infuriating as a parent. And so I wanted to talk about some ideas on how to handle this. And I think first and foremost, it's important to talk to them about it. I think it's tempting especially after you've cooled down and you've gone through the anger, to just be like, ugh, like whatever, they're gonna deal with this. And I am a believer in your teen solving their own problems, but I do think it's really important to sit down and talk to your teen about it. And especially when you're coming from a calm, cool place. Like this might have to be a couple days after you find out about the test, or maybe a couple hours, but talk to them about it and ask them, what happened, kind of get the full picture, the full story, right? So that we as a parent can make our best educated decisions, but also so that your teen knows that this is something important and it's not going to just slip through the cracks. Have you had any experience with that, Cheree?
Well, I just was going to add, I just love the point of like waiting to make sure you're in a good headspace and emotional space before you talk to them. I like to, as a parent, say, okay, what emotion do I want to come from when I'm talking to them about this test? Like, do I want to feel understanding? Do I want to feel loving? Do I want to feel compassion? Like, I want to go into that already deciding ahead of time what emotion I'm going to feel when I talk to them about it. And then I think just remembering that they've already probably beat themselves up so much about it. I don't know that that's what they need from us.
Yes.
I don't think, they probably already kind of bullied themselves. I don't know that that's helpful for us to get after them. Now, is it okay as parents to have some expectations of our kids and want them to study and prepare and do well on tests? Yeah. But I think that after the fact, you getting really mad at them or getting upset isn't going to change the result of the test. And I think we have to remember that.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I think the ideal is you're talking to them as almost like a counsel of like, oh, wow, this really surprised me. Or did it surprise you? Right? Like, did you
Oh,
know
I
you
love that.
clicked on this?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but going right into my second idea is something you said, that we have expectations of our children and we should have expectations of them academically. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be straight A's or that they pass every test, but we should be talking to our child in this counsel about your expectations for them. And this is really a great place to say, like, hey, studying at 3 a.m., not a good idea, right? Like that's not working for you, right? So we're counseling together, but we are restating our expectations of our teenager. And that might take some time as like a mom or dad to figure out, what do I expect of them? Do I expect perfection and that's not really going to happen? Or am I okay with this grade for them? And then clearly outlining like the consequences. Now, I'm the biggest believer in natural consequences, which failing a test is a natural consequence of not studying, staying out late, not preparing, right? Or a plethora of things. But that we come up with appropriate consequences for your teenager, and that could just be that they failed the test. Sometimes we don't have to add one on top of that. You stated so beautifully that they've probably really beat themselves up about this, but if we especially find that with our teenager that they don't care, that they're like, whatever, I don't care about this, then we need to start looking into consequences for when they haven't put in the effort on school that we expect for them to be able to succeed. Just like if I'm not putting in effort at work and I really drop a big project, there's going to be consequences, right? And a natural consequence is that my team sees and people saw that this project didn't get done. And one, too, might be a private one in discussion with your boss, right? About how this did not meet expectations. Maybe you're not in line for a raise anymore, right? There's very natural ways that this happens for adults. So we need to make sure it happens for teenagers.
For sure. And I think sometimes the expectations or consequences are removing distractions. Okay, I can tell like, your phone is really distracting you from studying, or, maybe we need to be done with video games for a little bit until we can get our grades up. Like, I do think it's really okay to help your teen remove distractions that are keeping them from meeting the expectations. And not just your expectations, like even asking your teen, like, what are your expectations for yourself? What are you wanting to achieve? Or if they're like, we don't care, I don't care if I get back grades. Okay, so let's just talk about what that's going to look like 5 years from now if you don't care, and really have them see that their consequences don't always just affect right now. They definitely can affect the future as well.
I had somebody tell me that they said God gave us parents until our brain like developed, right? And I think that's so true. Sometimes as parents, we think, oh, I don't want to be the one forcing them to do this. Well, and that's part of the role of being a parent is that we help them recognize that this really is important when they don't realize it's important. And I love that you said, you talk them out 5 years. Say, listen, I know you want a basketball scholarship. If your grades don't reflect that, you can't be on a team, right? Like, so we start to tie it to what matters to them. And then lastly is we let them figure it out. Now that's it might sound counterintuitive to what I just said, right? Of like we're counseling together, we have consequences. But as a teacher, I saw way too often that parents would call me and say, oh, my teen, they missed this day or they didn't get this in, they're failing this class. What can I do? And way to go, mom and dad, for being like on top of what's happening in your teen's life. But that's a conversation a teenager should be having with their teacher and saying, hey, teacher, what can I do? I bombed this test. Do you do remake? Like coming up with a plan because that's a life skill I want to teach my teenager is how to deal with a mistake with a superior and how to figure it out on their own.
Exactly. It's teaching them to take responsibility of their own life and take responsibility when things don't go well. Like we're gonna struggle sometimes. We're gonna bomb a test, and I'm gonna take responsibility for that. And I'm going to do all that's in my power to fix it and to change it. And think about like, gosh, next time I'm gonna do this differently, or I'm gonna go talk to my teacher about this, and not have it be the parent's job. That does your child no favors. It really doesn't.
And then you follow up at home, right? You're like, hey, talk to your teacher. Perfect.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you for talking to your teacher, and I'm so proud of you for figuring this out. Or if they're struggling with it, okay, what do you think you need to do to, change this? Or what do you need to do to fix this? Or what do you need to do to address this? You're handing them the responsibility.
Right, because I'm going to tie that to what you said, because I want you to get your Xbox back. Because I
Hmm.
want you to have this
Yeah.
awesome experience. I don't want to like I don't believe parents really ever have to be the bad guy because we are the cheerleader of our teen going, "Oh my gosh, I want you to get your phone back. I want you to be thriving. I just have to love you so much that I'm willing to be a gatekeeper of distractions or a gatekeeper of bad friends, right?" So all things that you can take just one of these and go, okay, I'm going to try this with my teen now that they've spelled or failed their Spanish exam. And so that's why Cheree and I love doing this podcast together. So we hope that these tips help you out and that you will join us in our next episode. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.